Det ryktas att de ser lite annorlunda ut.
Well, the idea when we finished this album was we were so pleased with the album. We wanted everyone to notice us. So we decided to create a new look, a bit like we did a few years ago with the pointy hats. And so we've worked with a theatre designer called Ian McNeill, who works in London mainly. And we just wanted to look different. I always feel more confident when I'm dressed up. It makes me feel more like a pop star, less like me, and I like that feeling. And also we wanted to have a little trademark look that could be reduced to something very simple. So you just got the orange hair and the big eyebrows. It's like being a cartoon, and that's what we're working towards getting with this. A bit like we did, as I said, with the pointy hats.
Yeah, and you mentioned before, like the punk sort of thing that's lacking in the music business. What do you mean by that?
Well, music. A lot of pop music nowadays is very bland and doesn't really have any content. And we were just looking back to an era when pop music was musically exciting, socially exciting, and had an interesting agenda. And also, I've always liked that look. I've always liked the basic punk look. I particularly actually like the bondage trousers with the strap at the back. And so it's kind of
punky. We've always had a bit of a punk attitude, generally, not obviously though, not the way we dress or anything like that, but a kind of not really doing it the industry or whatever. I'm trying to say that when we're this. So. We've kind of anyway, but kind of just doing what we want and not necessarily what record company wants you to do or whatever. So.
Music nowadays is so much about marketing, and about. They're not just boy bands either. Really across the board, it's so much about marketing that. I think what the music we tend to like is something that's an original voice, and
also about punk as well. What I liked about it was that you didn't have to be able to do it to be able to do it. You didn't have to be able to play musical instruments to do it. And now all these boy bands, they can all sing in harmony. They can always do fantastic dance routines. I can't stand it. I wish they all couldn't do it very well.
Yeah. Actually, when people can do it, when they have a kind of facility to do this stuff. They don't tend to do. It's so good. Oh wow, we can all sing home. Isn't that great? And so they sing, "How Deep Is Your Love" by the Bee Gees or something. And when people can't do things, when people have to try more, you get something more interesting. I remember Bernard Sumner from New Order telling us that New Order were trying to play "You Make Me Feel Mighty Real" by Sylvester. You know that song, and they couldn't do it. So what they ended up doing was writing Blue Monday, and that's how it started. Though "You Make Me Feel," and it's sort of, and I think that's very interesting, particularly in British pop music. It's people's limitations make them create something new. We've been writing songs for a musical, and also been writing songs for this album. And there's a little crossover with 3 of the songs. Only one of them really, "In Denial," is a song in the musical. It's a scene. And it's such a pretty tune, and we recorded it with Kylie Minogue, and everyone loved the song, but we thought we'd put it on the album anyway. The other songs like "Vampires" and "For Your Own Good" that are from the musical are really background music in the musical. So they have a general relevance, but not a specific relevance. The album itself, though, is nightlife, is about people at night. It's about going clubbing, getting drunk, falling in love, picking someone up, how people's relationships are affected by this. Why people do this, why people go out at night. We chose the songs that fitted that theme. And it's the same theme as we had several years ago with West End Girls. But we deliberately chose songs that fitted into that theme.
Neil Francis Tennant föddes den 10 juli 1954 i North Shields i England. Drygt 5 år senare föds Christopher Sean Lowe i Blackpool. Deras vägar korsas för första gången av en slump. De möts i en elektronikaffär på Kings Road i London 1981. Pet Shop Boys var fött.
I remember it, not fantastically clearly, because it was, but it was in the shop on the King's Road, which is still there. We just walked past it the other day. And Chris was in the shop, standing by the counter, and I came in the shop. And I was hanging around the shop waiting. I bought a synthesizer, and I wanted to play it through my record player. And they were making a special jack plug, so I could have a jack in the synthesizer and put it in the back of the amplifier. And it just took them 15 minutes to do. And so we started talking. And Chris had never met anyone who had a synthesizer, because in 1981 it was still quite rare to have a synthesizer. And that was that. I remember we laughed a lot.
What was your musical idea at the time then, when you started together? Started off working together. I mean, what did you think about musically?
Well, there's a lot of records by Bobby Orlando, which were really simple. Well, they were very punky in their attitude. They were just octave bass lines on a synthesizer and some drums, and that was about it, really. And actually, completely new type of music for me, and very excited by it. And Neil had a synthesizer, and we just wrote really simple electronic music, bouncing backwards and forwards onto cassette, and to build up the layers, and sort of hitting Neil's coffee table with sticks and stuff to get the drums. Quite good fun, actually. Wrote a few songs like that.
Pet Shop Boys första album släpps 1985, West End Girls. I samband med det slutar Neil Tennant sitt jobb som redaktör på engelska musiktidningen Smash Hits. When did you start to feel like pop stars in a way?
Well, it took a long time. It took 5 years, actually. It took exactly 5 years. 4 years maybe. 4 or 5 years. Well, when we finally had a record that entered the charts, with West End Girls. I remember thinking there was a period where, and it wasn't that long after we wrote songs, within 9 months of writing songs together, I remember thinking that we were doing something that was really good. When I first met Chris, I wasn't working for Smash Hits Music Magazine, I was working somewhere else. And it was around about that period I went to work for Smash Hits, and I remember thinking, I'd be thinking about our demos and the records I was listening to at Smash Hits, and thinking that what we were doing, if it was done properly, could be as good as anything I was listening to on this record player at Smash Hits magazine. And then a year later we met Bob Yo, our then musical hero, and we made a record with him. And after that it all happened very gradually, really. It all just kept on, it kept on happening. But I thought between the two of us, I'd been writing songs since I was a child, and Chris had been writing music, without necessarily writing songs, he'd been writing music on the piano and stuff. And I thought the chemistry between us musically was very good, because I didn't know anything whatsoever about rhythm tracks or bass lines. I just knew chords and melody. In many ways that's still the case. And so we, as a duo, we kind of complemented each other. And the only reason I wasn't going to be the singer originally, but we didn't really know anyone else who could be the singer, so I just became the singer by default, really. I never really thought that I would be the singer. At one point we were going to get Jimmy Somerville to be the singer. Before he was in Bronski Beat. We had a friend who knew him, and we saw a film he made, and he was really, I thought his voice was great. We were going to ask him, but we didn't in the end. Thank God.
How does it actually look like in the studio? Who's doing what?
We've got a lot more equipment now. And when you've got a lot of equipment, it's difficult to know where it all works. So we have a program. Because there's one thing we both hate, it's reading instruction manuals and wiring stuff up. And I don't really think that's what's important anyway, knowing how to do it. I think as long as you've got someone that can do as you tell them, I think that's fine. I think when people sort of know how to use their studio and program all their keyboards themselves, I think it doesn't leave much capacity for them to actually write anything. So I think it's always the idea that's more important than the actual ability to do it yourself. So we've got more gear, and sometimes that detaches you a bit from the songwriting process, but we've been slowly getting that back into our core so that we can well, Neil's got a studio at his house, which is kind of the full Pet Shop Boys studio, where we need a programmer with us because it's too complicated. But I've just got this little setup now. I've gone back to basics. I've got like a sampler and a computer and a keyboard. And so I'm slowly building my way back up to being able to do it myself.
12 to 8. So if we're working at this, like Psalm West, is a studio we use a lot in London, we'll get there about 12 o'clock and have lunch or breakfast, depending what meal you want to call it. And then, yeah, we'll, if we're working on a track, we'll be playing around with it.
But writing a song could be at any time.
Yeah.
I prefer to write at night. So after you've had dinner, a bit to drink.
Yeah, because I feel less inhibited.
But when you're not in the studio process, I mean, what do you do then when you have time off and stuff? I mean, do you work with other projects, or do you sort of like leave the music behind? Or, I mean, what do you do when you have sort of like a day?
I think it's important to have long breaks in between writing and recording, because I think you can lose the plot really, and people, I mean, Stevie Wonder's the classic example of someone who always has his keyboards around him and he's writing the whole time, and Prince is another one, isn't he, who always has everything there just in case he has a good idea. Well, I think both of those people would be better off just leaving it for a couple of years, and then they'd be so full of musical ideas and inspiration that they'd probably get a lot of good stuff out. So I think it's good to be able to leave it behind.
You don't believe in mass production, sort of like?
Well, actually, when it works, it's great. I think when Stockache and Walkman went through that period, and they literally did 9 to 5, didn't they, every day, and it was. I think that's great when that.
You can really get on a roll sometimes. I mean, you can really get on a roll sometimes. You're doing one song, you suddenly get another idea, and you stop and you think, oh, I must just put this down. That does happen.
But how long that roll can last, I don't know.
The last time we did a show was in London. We did a thing called Somewhere, where we performed at a theatre for 2.5 weeks. And that was because I'd seen the work of this artist called Sam Taylor Wood, and she had her exhibition, she had 5 videos in a row, and the videos all interacted with each other. And I thought, wow, you could do a really good show based on that idea, and that's what we ended up doing. So that tends to be a sort of separate thing, because we're interested in things that go on. I see a lot of art shows and things at the theatre or films, and it's good to bring new visual ideas in. But we don't think of music visually when we're writing it, I don't think. I mean, this musical we've written, which is going to be produced at the end of next year, I hope, is when people think of music, I think they think of the Phantom of the Opera and all that kind of stuff. But this is using modern pop music, club music, and it takes place in a club. And it's trying to do something that's new and fresh, and maybe we'll bring in a young audience. And that was quite interesting, because we did have to write some things that were for the plot, like the song In Denial that's on the album, the duet with Kylie Minogue, that's written for that. So that's really the only time we've ever written anything that's got a kind of a logic on it. Yeah, I always forget that was him. Eagle-eyed Cherry's in Being Boring. You didn't know that, did you?
I didn't. Is he the dancer?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
We do this pirouette on top of the stairs. Is that Eagle-eyed Cherry?
Yeah, actually, do you remember?
I didn't know
at
that.
the time, actually, they said Nina Cherry's brother was in it. Funnily enough, but someone only said that to me recently. I didn't know actually.
He's a good dancer.
Great.
So, do you have any favorite video? I mean, generally looking back on all those.
That we've made?
Yeah.
My favourite video we've made, I like Being Boring very much, because I think it really captures, that's because I like the song a lot. My favourite pure video we've made is Can You Forgive Her? The one with the pointy hats, because it's so what we wanted to do. We wanted to create our own world that we lived in with our own look, and it was totally unreal. And I thought the director, Howard Greenough, achieved that brilliantly, and the costume design was great.